Hello and welcome to another episode of Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie and I'm your host for today's show. So today I'm doing another Liverpool transfer special show, but today I'll be asking the question or beginning a discussion in terms of our future transfer window. Are Liverpool going to make another signing? Now I'm sure when you've read that strapline on the video, you thought automatically no, because let's say respected journalists like Paul Joyce have said that it's not something we plan to do this season, and maybe we'll look to sign a midfielder, i.e. a Jude Bellingham, next summer. So it's always the same situation with Liverpool where, next year we'll sign a top player. I'm not saying it is the case, and I'm not saying the journalists are wrong in this matter, but you have to take their viewpoint with a pinch of salt. And I don't feel like everything that they've tweeted or communicated in the press is 100% accurate. They're playing a game as well at the same time, especially when they're so connected to the club. So today I thought let's sort of review the squad, because last episode I reviewed each department and gave my sort of analysis of each player, but I think I didn't really highlight the current squad in terms of how the team will start up in midfield and attack, and who would be playing more, or on paper who will be playing the more games this season. So let's dive into it straight away. So current squad, we've got 8 midfielders on the book. So we've got Fabinho and Hendo. For me, Henderson will be playing more as a squad player this season. I think he will be in rotation with Fabinho in the number 6. Last season, I was really impressed with him as a number 6. I feel like at this stage of his career, it's the right sort of transformation for him to be in that role. I feel like box to box, he can do a job, don't get me wrong, but I think there's been times during the season where, I don't know, he looked a bit out of pace or hasn't quite got the energy that he used to have. And plus, going forward, I think Liverpool should be looking at a more dynamic player who's more creative and actually scores more goals from midfield as well. So for me, this season, I think Henderson will be more of a squad player. Obviously, he's still captain, don't get me wrong, but he'll be played in the more important games and then rotated with the other squad players that we have in the team as well. So those two will be the number 6 in my opinion. And the 2 number 8s will be, the first choice will be Thiago. Now the second position is debatable. At this stage, we'll probably give the upper hand to Keita. I personally wouldn't, if I'm being brutally honest. I'm not the biggest fan of Naby Keita, especially not in a Liverpool shirt. I think when he was at Red Bull Leipzig, he was phenomenal. But in a Liverpool shirt, for me, he's not performed, or he's not lived up to the expectation. So I would go with Elliott as the first choice, number 8. Might be too much of an attack-minded choice, but if you look at it this time last year, he had a good pre-season and then he was starting games as well. And he was unfortunate to have such a bad injury during the season, which kept him out for a few months. So hopefully with a good pre-season under his belt, he'll be able to regain that form that brought him back into the starting lineup last year. So I'd go for Elliott. So in terms of the players below them, you've got Ox, who's still in the squad right now. A player with a question mark on his head, as we're not quite sure with him. He's got 1 year left, we all know that. But has he got a future at the club? I think the communication within the press is telling us that he will be staying here for 1 more year and probably be, able to run his contract next season and leave on a free, which is a strong possibility, especially if no one's coming in. But at this stage, we're kind of just thinking look, let's just see how it goes. We might sign him somewhere, we might not. Who knows? But right now, he's in the squad, so we've still got him as an option. We've got Jones and we've got Milner. So that's 8 midfielders there. And attackers, we've got 6 attackers. So we've got Diaz, Jota on the left. You've got Nunez and Firmino in the central positions. And then you've got Salah. And I've placed Carvalho on the right-hand side. For Fulham, he predominantly played as a number 10, but did play quite a bit on the right-hand side. And on occasions played on the left as well. So he'll be a good player to play across the front line. For me, he's the replacement for Taki Minamino, who's just recently joined Monaco. So he'll be able to play that role where he's more of a squad player in his first season, but at the same time, he might be able to play in midfield as well, like how Elliott was last year. So an exciting prospect to have in our squad right now. Now, the big question is, if we signed a right winger, how would our team look like? So it'll be obviously a right winger will be a backup for Salah, and the front two will be Nunes, Firmino, and then you've got Jota and Diaz on the left hand side. And then the other option is, if we can't get a new right winger, could we get another centre midfielder? Now, in terms of our squad, it will be pretty much same thing. So Fabinho, Hendo as number 6, and then you've got the new centre mid. Then you've got Keita, Elliott on the right hand side. Then you've got Thiago, Jones, and Milner. So it's complete there. In this scenario that I've just mentioned with the two new players, if we got a right winger or a centre mid, this will be on the basis of Oxlade-Chamberlain leaving. I think if he doesn't leave, this conversation is pretty much there's no point in talking any further, because I think it'll be too many numbers to have in our squad. At this stage, we've got 25, 26 concrete players. So I don't see us having such a big squad. But the big difference this season is that we're able to have 9 subs and we're able to make 5 substitutions during the game. So that's something I'll highlight later on in the show. So that's going to be a key factor. Now, if we were to sign either a right winger or a centre mid, for me, that reduces Carvalho's game time. With a new centre mid, because he can play as a midfield, as an attacker, he won't have the opportunity to play midfield because of a new player that's been brought into the squad. And if you've got another attacker, he'll be 7th choice. So if you looked at how the second half of our season was, Taki and Origi were 7th or 8th choice. So these guys hardly played. And Ox was 7th or 8th choice midfielder. So, he didn't get much minutes last season either. So if you're that 7th or 8th choice, you pretty much are very, very limited to any game time. So for me, to sign such a high prospect in Fabio Carvalho, I don't think that's the right route to go in that regard. So I think it's all good when I say, I want a new right winger, a new centre mid. You have to analyze the squad as well. So right now, I think our squad is a full squad right now. If Oxlade-Chamberlain leaves, then I feel like there's an opportunity to add another player. So let's say Oxlade-Chamberlain does leave. It's very hard to get a top centre mid or a top right winger at this stage of the season, due to the fact that if you're a top right winger, when you come into the squad, you'll be back up to Salah because he's still there. He's still, according to what he said, he'll still be here for another year. Whereas if you're a midfielder, you'll probably slot in straight away, to be honest with you. But we're not looking to just sign any centre mid. We're trying to get someone who's of a high caliber, back of Jude Benning. I know that's the sort of the talk of the town right now. But if he's not available, are we willing to wait? For me, I would like to sign someone right now this season. I feel like it will have a big impact in how we progress. But I'll talk about that later on as well. So an alternative option, if we weren't to get a solid right winger or a centre mid, how about signing a player who can play both roles? So 2 players that came to my mind were Lucas Paqueta, who plays for Lyon, and Pedro Goncalves, who plays for Sporting Lisbon, plays as a right winger, but can play in the centre mid as well. So 2 great options. I think in terms of affordability, probably cost between 40, 50 million, I don't know. But it will be that sort of range. They won't break the bank as such in terms of the transfer fee. 2 players that are highly rated in Europe as well. So I know I brought these names onto the table, but I feel like the problem with these 2 players is that Paqueta stylistically is very similar to Harvey Elliott, and Pedro Goncalves is very similar stylistically as Fabio Carvalho as well. So if you bought any of those players, it will literally limit Carvalho's playing time and maybe even Elliott's playing time as well. So as great as these players are, now they've been linked with Liverpool as well. I don't know if they're the right options right now. Don't get me wrong, if we were to sign them this season, I'll be ecstatic. I'll be the first one to do a video about them. But I'm trying to look at the bigger picture in terms of a lot of the players that we're signing, they're signed for the future. So there's no point of signing a young Carvalho and Elliott and then you start buying players to kind of stop their progress as well, because they need game time to develop at this to play in the first team. So those are two names that I thought were quite interesting as well. Another option is Carvalho playing as a centre mid. So it's not a role that he's played that much. I know he has occasionally for Fulham. Would he be able to cement a position in centre mid? I think in his first season it would be quite difficult to do, but he has the quality to do it, in my opinion. I think this season he'll be rotated. He'll play as a number 8 sometimes, and then he'll be played as on the right side of our attack sometimes, and then maybe in games where we need a creative spark, play him as a number 10 as well. So I think that's what he's brought in, to kind of be a player to provide an attacking threat from the bench rather than starting week in, week out. So I don't think that's going to be the option for him this year. Now, look, if he develops into an amazing player, and fingers crossed he does, next year maybe that's his position where he plays as a number 8, and our option might be different in terms of finding a Jude Benning. Would they work together? Who knows? I think that's going a bit far-fetched in terms of forward thinking, but I think he will play a big role. I just don't think he's that number 8 that we're looking for right now. So the point I made earlier regarding substitution, I think this is such a key part of our success this season. And I'll be brutally honest, because I'm not fussed in terms of who we sign, in terms of a name or what I am. It has to be a good quality player, but I'm not fussed if it's a right winger that comes in or centre mid. We need an extra. And with the new rules where you're able to have 9 players on the bench and you can make 5 substitutions, this is the perfect time to have an extra couple of players to kind of just revamp the squad. And if you saw how we played last season, which I know you Liverpool fans did, we looked tired during the last couple of months. That was because we were fighting all fronts, all competitions. But at the same time, we just lacked that energy. We lacked that creative spark, that creative edge in front of goal. And we weren't scoring many goals towards the latter stages. So I think if we had extra bodies, it would be a different situation there. So on paper, let's say I had to give you like our starting 11 and our 9 subs. So let's quickly go through that. So Alisson would be goalkeeper. Back forward would be Robbo, Van Dijk, Matip, and Trent. And then the midfield would be, for me, Fabinho, Thiago, and I'd put Elliott in there just because I want a more creative midfielder if I was manager. That's what I would do. And the front three would probably be Diaz, Nunez, and Salah. So the subs would be Kelleher, the goalkeeper. Konate would be the centre-back. And because we've got an extra 2 subs available this season, I would place Gomez. He would be the player to cover the right-back position as well as centre-back, which is fantastic for us. Tsimikas will be the left-back in our bench as well. Then you've got Naby Keita, centre-mid. And then you've got James Milner, who can come on and kind of shut shop whenever we need to during the latter stages. And then I will have an additional player. So that would be an attacking-minded player. So for me, that could be Carvalho, that can come in. Or actually, I think instead of Milner, I'll probably put Henderson in midfield. And then I'll have Carvalho as the attacking option. And then I have Jota and Firmino. So all of these players pretty much cover every aspect of our playing positions. They all are flexible to play in different roles. And there's no area where we're kind of lacking quality. So the remaining players that I didn't even mention were Adrian, so that would be a goalkeeper. Then you've got Reece Williams, who would be centre-back cover. You've got new signing Calvin Ramsey, who will be challenging for that right-back position. But I think he won't be, pushed into the squad right away. You've got Curtis Jones, who can come in for Naby or Henderson in that position if they're not available. You've got Ox, who's another centre-mid option. You can take one of their role. So you've got a lot of attacking options there, in my opinion. So I think that shows that if we had one more player in that bench, let's say it was another right winger or another box-to-box midfielder, I feel like it would make such a big difference to our season. Now, the box-to-box midfielder that we all want, or I think majority of us want, is Jude Benning. But even the whole thinking of that we'll get him next year is no guarantee. There's already rumors circulating that there's a lot of interest in him already, and we might not be able to even complete that deal due to other clubs offering higher wages, which it is what it is. When you've got teams like Manchester United that just like to throw away their money and offer youngsters ridiculous salaries, it can happen. So my question is, would it be worth looking at a centre mid this season rather than later? I mentioned Paqueta and Conchavez earlier on. But for me, we need to sign a top centre midfielder. So I've said this a couple of times now. So let me give you some names. So there's two names that come to my mind, and they have been linked with us recently as well. So one is realistic, and one for me is far-fetched. The realistic one is Matheus Nunes, who plays for Sporting Lisbon. Now, I'm not going to say that I've been watching him all season and all that sort of stuff. I've seen some bits and bobs, done a bit of research on him. And if you haven't, please just go into a YouTube video. You'll see a compilation there that will show a bit of a glimpse of his quality, so you know what type of player he is. And for me, he would fit the bill. He's a number 8, big, strong centre mid, 6 foot plus, great engine, fast, great dribbler, scores goals. For me, is a complete midfielder. He's the number 8 that we're looking for. Now, the other target that I mentioned was Nicola Barella, so the centre mid from Inter Milan. And for me, this is far-fetched. I don't think there's any truth in that rumor. There's already been talks or rumors, I should say, that they would like Keita in the deal, so it'd be like a part exchange. This just sounds like FIFA career mode to me in terms of these kind of deals. Swap deals very rarely happen in this day and age, so I don't see it happening. However, if we were to sign Barella this season, that would be the almost perfect sign, in my opinion. I think Barella is what some fans think Naby Keita is right now. And look, I'm not here to bash Naby Keita. He's a Liverpool player. I'll always support him. But for me, he's just not been good enough since he's joined the club. Barella is quick. He's dynamic. He's box-to-box, creative, great dribbler, and drives with the ball. And most importantly, he gets a lot of goals. So for me, he would be the perfect signing. Now, are these targets realistic? I don't know. We've just started the transfer window, so it's been under 2 weeks that it's been opened. You never know. There might be a possibility that we could sign a player going forward. But my conclusion is, if I was Liverpool manager, this is what I would do this window. So I would sell Oxlade-Chamberlain. I know that's going to be pretty obvious in terms of him being the departure because he's got a last year remaining in his contract. I would sign Matheus Nunes. I think he's been linked with all sorts of clubs. He's been linked with Wolves, Newcastle. He's even been linked with Man City because they're after a midfielder right now. So for me, it is vital that we sign a centre mid. I think a centre mid will refresh our midfield, which is in desperate need. And I think signing a centre mid will allow Carvalho to focus on playing more further up, which I think is his sort of best attributes, where he's in the attacking third rather than playing in midfield and doing the nitty-gritty work as well as being an attacking threat. I don't think that's the style of play that he's been bought for right now. I think he's supposed to be that creative spark, that sort of game changer sort of player, where he chips in with the goals but can play different positions. I think that's what he's been brought in for this season. So I think Carvalho will be played or should be focused more up top, and Elliott for me can challenge for that number 8 position. I've already said that I would like him to start in the first day of our Premier League season. That's the midfielder I'd go for. Will Klopp have that vision? Who knows? He might do, to be fair. So, in terms of our first team, I think if let's say Nunes is signed, I've got the dream comes true that I've said a name and it happens. Our midfield will simply be Fabinho, Thiago, and Mateus Nunes, and then you'll have Henderson, and then you'll have Elliott, and then you'll have Naby Keita as your bench options. And then if there's any injuries or any suspensions or players that aren't available or out of form, you've got Jones and Milner to come in as well. So for me, that's a good balance. That has a bit of everything. So if Fabinho's not playing or he's out of form, you can get Hendo to come in. Keita, for me, hasn't been reliable over the years. So he'll play a bit more as an impact player from the bench. And Mateus Nunes can kind of have a starting role and play to his potential, I guess. So that would be what I would do. I think it would be the perfect balance to our squad. Now, let's go a bit far fetched. Now, let's say I'm Mystic Oz and I predict the future. I think next summer, despite how well this player does, and I know a lot of people are going to think I'm just bashing this player throughout this whole episode. It's not the case. It's just that I think there has to be more quality added to the squad. I think Naby Keita will be sold next summer, regardless if he signs a new contract or not. So if he signs a new contract, that adds more value to his transfer fee next year. If he doesn't, then he leaves on a free. But it'll be very unrealistic for us to have two midfielders in Naby Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain on the last year of their contract and then both be released in the same summer. I don't think that's how it works. I think one of them will get it. And at this stage, maybe Naby has a bit more value because he played in the Bundesliga, so he has a bit more sort of visibility to the other leagues, whereas Oxlade-Chamberlain predominantly played in the English league, so might not be as an attractive option in comparison to Naby Keita. So I can see Naby Keita being sold next summer, and then Bellingham will come in as his replacement. And then let's not forget, Milner will probably most likely leave as well, as he will be in the final year of his contract. So for Milner, in terms of he's the eighth midfielder in our squad. So I would just, for me this season, I think Morton should go out on loan, and then when he comes back from his loan, I think he can come in as that eighth choice and challenge for a spot in our midfield. So that's how I would think. I think we can still sign a midfielder this summer and also sign Bellingham next summer as well. So next summer we'll have two like for like number 8s that can really do the job for us. So I don't think it's too far-fetched in that regards. Just got a comment here. Ozzie has been driving the Naby Keita out bus for a while now. Madison Smith, you're a long-time follower of the show. Yes, I have. And I can't hide it anymore as well. I think due to the fact that I've seen a lot of things online where people have brought up stats and saying, look, he's had his best season. But it's all good and well having those stats. But I like to go with the eye test. I like to see how these players play. And he has his moments, but I feel like there's a lot of games where in terms of his all-round game, he lacks defensive awareness. There's times where I feel like the final pass isn't quite there, or he goes for that wrong option. So maybe I'm being a bit more hypercritical in terms of his performances, but he's been at the club for a good few years now. He was signed as a 50+ million signing, and for me, it just hasn't worked. And I feel like this would have been the perfect time to part ways and bring in someone in. But who knows? Klopp has his vision, so we'll see how it goes in that regards. Now, another talking point for me in the squad that hasn't really been touched on is Mo Salah. So if Mo Salah stays, I don't expect a new attacker to come in. But you never know, it could be an option this summer where we actually do sign another attacker. But if he decides to leave on a free, which is, for me, should not be an option, who would we look at as a direct replacement? So I know it's a bit far-fetched, but I like to think ahead of myself sometimes as well. For me, I've got a few names in my head, but unfortunately, they've been linked with moves already right now. So Rafinha is one. I think he would have been the perfect like for like um, replacement for Salah if he was to leave. I think he would fit in perfectly to our squad. Right now, I'm not entirely sure what the rumors are saying, but before, I think Barcelona are still pretty much interested, but I don't think they have the funds to make that purchase right now. I think Arsenal made a bid yesterday, and Chelsea are trying to get involved as well. So with him, where do I see him ending up? I actually think he might end up with Arsenal, to be honest with you. But if he joins Arsenal, where does that put Saka? Because Saka plays on the right, and yes, I know he plays on the left as well. But could he be signed because Saka might want to leave the club? Because there has been that sort of rumor circulating where Man City are looking for a new additional attacker with Sterling or Mahrez and Jesus actually going to Arsenal. So it sounds like a bit of a merry-go-round there where they are going to lose one or two players at least in their attacking roles. So interesting in terms of how that pans out. But I think if he's not available for us this season or next summer, another player is Anthony from Ajax, but I think he's linked to Manchester United. So if he goes there, for me, he'll probably ruin his career. But you know, it's all for him to decide. I know he's got his manager there in terms of Ten Hag, but I don't think I would move for him would be good at United. Either stay at Ajax or look for a club where they actually can build around him. So for me, it would be the perfect time to actually sign a player like Anthony where he can play back up as Salah, but at the same time learn the trade of how we play as a team, evolve in the team, and then next season he'll pretty much be told, look, you are the man in terms of that right wing. That's your role now. You've had your year to get accustomed to the league. Now go and flourish and go on and do your thing. So that would be my way of thinking in terms of signing an attacker now who will be ready to replace Salah or be another option going forward. It's a win-win situation in that regard. So another player I think that will have a big season or needs to show some level of progression is Curtis Jones. It could literally be make or break for him, in my opinion. I rate him highly. I feel like he's got fantastic ability. But I think since he's been in the first team fold, he hasn't really escalated. He hasn't progressed or developed to that next level. I think that's what we're all seeking for, where is he happy to just be a squad player or does he want to actually challenge for that role? Because I think he can easily be on the bench or start a lot more games this season. I feel like there's an opportunity there. If you don't sign a centre mid, then 100% is an opportunity for do that. But I'm hoping for a new centre mid, so we'll see. But look, I've said a lot of scenarios here, who we'd buy next year, who we can buy this year, all that sort of stuff. Let's get back to reality. So right now, as it stands, if Oxlade-Chamberlain doesn't leave, we're not signing no one. And that's the ultimate truth. Because numbers-wise, like I mentioned earlier, we have a full squad. I know a lot of this point has been raised up so many times on social media, but people have said that, we've sold Taki, we've sold Origi, we've sold Mane. Like, who's going to replace their goals? Like, we've not even replaced them in the squad. We actually have replaced them in the squad in terms of numbers. So Origi has pretty much been replaced by Diaz. Maybe not stylistically, but in terms of in the squad, he has. Taki has been replaced by Carvalho, who I mentioned earlier on, and Mane has been replaced by Nunes. So in terms of numbers, we've got 6 attackers, and they're all ready to go. So in that regards, I don't think we'll sign more attackers or more midfielders unless someone departs. At this stage, the only person that can see leaving is Oxlade-Chamberlain. Naby Keita, I don't think he'll leave this season. I think there's strong rumors circulating saying that he will be offered a new contract. So I think that's the route that we're taking right now. Just got another comment here from Madison Smith. I have been hearing different numbers regarding Salah's salary wants. But if this is true that he wants $450 a week from Liverpool, this is not happening. I think they will max out at 300k. I think so as well. I think from what I've heard, there were a couple issues. So I think salary was one, but I think they had a compromise where I think he was offered around 350k, And then there were talks more about his image rights, but obviously he generates more money from branding and sponsorships and all that sort of stuff. So if his demand is a flat 450 a week, it's not happening. And everyone's like, "Oh, give him what he wants." I was probably one of them saying it last year, but in terms of 450 a week, listen, that's ridiculous, because once you've given that to a player, all the other elite players in our squad will be knocking on the door. You'll get Alisson, Van Dijk, Trent, because even Trent's got a couple of years left on his contract. You'll have Salah's the one as well. So you'll have a lot of these players coming knocking on the door and asking for higher salaries. So we've just sold Mane as well. People saying that was down to not offering him a higher salary. I personally think for him it was more sort of, I think he wanted a new challenge. He's been in the Premier League for like 8 years, I think. So for him, it's just time to just depart and try a different league as well. I don't think he's as money oriented, as the sort of normal world class player that you can see on your screen. So, and he's never been that sort of person. He's very humble, very low key. So for me, that was never. It wasn't about money. It was more about football in terms of how am I able to challenge myself and play in a different league. And when he got that interest from Bayern Munich, and a lot of people have been knocking Bayern Munich in terms of like, why has he joined Bayern Munich? For me, Bayern Munich are one of the elite clubs in world football, and still one of the best teams in Europe. And by the way, they've done some fantastic business. Gravenberch, who I've mentioned so many times over the course of the year as a player that I want Liverpool to get, he's been signed for like 20 million euros. They've got Mazraoui, who's also from Ajax, Moroccan international right back, got him on a free transfer. And then you've got Mane for 35 million. So that's amazing business from them. 3 good additions to their squad. And I think, they always wrap up the league. So that's not really an issue there. I think Europe, they'll definitely be challenging for the Champions League next season, in my opinion. So yeah, that's one of my things there regarding Mane. But before we conclude, my opinion on the current squad. So let's review the whole current squad, not individually, but just as a collective. I'm happy with the new acquisitions that we've made this year so far. So I've always said that Liverpool, when Origi departed, I feel like Liverpool lacked a proper number 9 in the squad. And if you look at world football, there aren't many around in that kind of ilk. So I think Darwin Núñez was the player that I wanted, and we've got him, so I'm happy with him. Different type of forward from what we have. A complete goal scorer, which we haven't had over the years. Definitely not on the clock in the Liverpool regime. So that's a plus point in my opinion. Carvalho, as I've mentioned numerous times, exciting talent. So great to have him on board. And Ramsey as well, great potential. Cover right back for us. And for him, there's no urgency for him to be in the squad straight away. He can take his time, get used to how we play, playing the cup games as well. I think fantastic addition to the squad. So we've finally got a right back cover. No offense, but no more James Milner on the right hand side, because I always feel like we just lack pace whenever he comes on into our team. So obviously, Mr. Reliable can do the job, but I feel like sometimes we need a bit of a cutting edge. And the way we play, we rely on our fullbacks for that creativity. So similar style as well in terms of how he plays, likes to bomb down the wing, great at set pieces as well. So I think 4 million we've got him for. So I think great addition to our squad. But let me cut to the chase. If we do not sign a centre mid this window, I think we'll fall short again, and we won't win the Premier League title, in my opinion. I don't believe we have enough quality in the middle of the park. We lack a driving force in midfield. We don't have an attacking threat where someone can be the creative player, but also be the sort of goal scorer. We don't get a lot of goals from our midfield. So for me, that's a big issue. Henderson, I think, will be more used as a squad player. Keita, due to his injury record, can't be really relied on. Elliott has a chance to stake a claim in this team, in my opinion. And then you've got Ox as well. I like Ox. I think when we signed him, I was really impressed in terms of how he played. But since that big injury he hasn't been the same. And whenever he's played, I feel like he's a tough player that needs a bit of rhythm. He needs a good few games to kind of get into that flow, and then you'll see the best out of him. But I don't think he's been trusted or relied upon to have that opportunity to play those type of games. So, and whenever he's played, he's been quite mismatched for me, and hasn't really had an impact whenever he's come on as a sub. So, if he's part of the squad, yeah, it is what it is. But for me, I think the best option would actually be to move him on right now, where he can get some game time as well, and that will allow us to have a space in the squad to sign another player. That would be my opinion right now. Jones, like I mentioned, has the opportunity to stake a claim upper level this year, make or break season for him. But yeah, like I mentioned, with the 9 substitution, if we don't sign another player or another attacker or another centre mid, I think we missed a trick. This is the perfect first season to have where you're actually allowed to have more players on your bench and you're allowed to make more substitution in the game. We're able to rotate more. We don't actually have a current backup stylistically to Salah. I know I mentioned Carvalho being the backup for him, but he can play multiple positions. We need someone stylistically behind him as well. So I think last season we were challenging all titles until the last day. I feel like the squad was jaded. So for me, it's so vital that we get a new centre mid. I can't emphasize it anymore. But let's end on a positive. Let's not dwell on this too much. I think we've got pre-season coming up. We've got some games lined up. I know we're playing Red Bull Salzburg, I think this time next month. So games to look forward to. We've got new signings to watch in a Liverpool shirt as well, which would be nice for us. So it's exciting times. I know I've been rambling on about us getting a centre mid or right winger, and this is all just like things that you want for your club. You want the best for your club. You want to see the best players playing at your club, or having a full squad so we can really challenge for the time, considering we were so close. We were in the running to do a quadruple last year. So why can't we go again and do it again this season? And I feel like we just need that one more player, one more midfielder, and I think we can really, really try challenge. But exciting season ahead. So let's not dwell too much. If this is the final squad, look, I will be supporting this team. I still feel like we can do something, but I think that slim margin of success and failure is dependent on this signing. Probably a huge statement to make, but at this stage, this is how I feel. So on that note, it's time to conclude the show. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the content. If you have any thoughts about my opinions and what I've said about the squad, please feel free to drop a comment. I'm happy to have a discussion with you. I'll respond to your comments and get back to you as soon as possible. So yeah, definitely do that for you. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel this year, so whether you can help me out in terms of sharing the link to your friends and family, get them to sign up and subscribe to our channel, would be very much appreciated. So yeah, until next time, thank you again, guys. See you soon, and take care of yourselves. Good night.